VSI. And so when we're talking about the topic of caffeine, we wanted to talk about the differences in caffeine that's on the market. You have your natural caffeines, and you also have your synthetic caffeines. And a lot of times people will, look at the label, they'll see the green tea, they'll see the guarana, and they'll Google them on the internet, and they'll say, well, it says these are caffeines, but it's not listed as caffeine on the brochure. So we're going to cover that in detail tonight. We're going to talk about natural caffeine versus synthetic caffeine so that you can clearly understand the difference between the two, because there's a huge difference, and there's a lot to be learned about the natural side of this. And so, Dr. Rouse, I'm going to go ahead and turn this over to you. But first, I want to say, for those of you that are listening tonight for the first time, Dr. Rouse is our founding medical advisor here with VSI. He is a doctor of natural medicine. He is also a registered pharmacist, and he's also a Baptist minister as well. And I know from working with him for the last 10 years that he truly has a heart for people, and he certainly has a heart for natural medicine, and we are so fortunate to have him on board here with us with VSI. So, Dr. Rouse, there's a big difference between natural caffeine and synthetic caffeine, so I'm going to let you take the floor now and share with the listeners tonight the difference between the two.
We'll sure do it. And over there in the monster that's on the screen, goodness gracious, anhydrous caffeine, El Cheapo, synthetic, ain't worth a hoot. And unfortunately, 5 people since 2009 have died linked to a popular energy drink called the Monster. Now, I don't know how many cans they drank, don't know why they would even imbibe in such foolishness, but that just shows you that sometimes we get all mixed up. All right, so tonight we're talking about the all-natural VSI weight loss. We're talking about the all-natural VSI energy pack, the new one. The new one, by the way, is just very invigorated. We took out anything in similitude to. Everything's all natural, totally organic, and so what I'd like to do is just simply to distinguish between the artificial, made by man in the laboratory, and the true trimethylxanthine, the natural boost that we get from organic plants and things like that. And they do in our products, they come from natural sources. And by the way, natural sources do not need to be listed in the ingredient statement. However, if a company chooses to put synthetic caffeine for fortifying on their product, they have to put it right there on the bottle, caffeine, and it's synthetic anhydrous. But on that slide, the next slide that you were talking about, what we find is that when you look at the plants, the herbal nutritional plants, there's about 60 of them that are very commonly used in nutritional products. People have been familiar with organic guarana, organic yerba mate, organic cola nut. All these things are unique. When we look at their structure, the molecules, we find that if we were looking at something that was good and energizing, we also find that with that one molecule that we're looking at, there may be 500 other plant nutritional molecules attached to it. And what we study is that we find that they're there to buffer it, to protect it, to make it non-toxic, and to keep it so it's assimilating and focusing and using by the human body. So how many times have you heard Charlie say, only God can do that? And that's the truth. We cannot make a man-made product that has all 500 of the buffers and the nutritional quality. So we look at it and we see that there's no doubt that the herbal natural, when companies like VSI are at the table with the chemist, and they always shoot back, well, Ryan, what price do you want to put on the product? And Ryan says, I want the best of the best. And there's no doubt that the herbal naturals like guarana, yerba mate, kola nut, they're much, much more expensive. They cost way more per kilo than the cheaper synthetic. And unfortunately, I have been around a lot of places, and I have seen companies that should know better but didn't, and they scrimp, and they just choose the cheapo for their product. Visi is the opposite. Kent and Ryan have chosen the best of the best, and our products contain 100% naturally occurring nutrition, and with the molecule caffeine, it is the more expensive brand. It is the better brand because it is 100% organic. So the question really then becomes, well, Dr. Charlie, explain to me what's the difference in the synthetic and the natural. And synthetic, just means artificial. And it comes with its conglomeration of problems. What was the monster? What was the monster in the can called Monster? Well, when people do just marginally, just do a little bit of synthetic, all of them, they know that they feel whacked out, anxious, irritable, mean-spirited, and definitely they feel their pulse, and it's rapid. It's tachycardia. Their irritability makes them not nice to be with, and because they don't sleep well at night, the next day can be just aggravating. And so those things are not kosher and not really necessary. But the natural plants, the ones that we use in our products, they are never in a caffeine-only state. No. You couldn't find the caffeine in the product singularly by itself. They're always going to be in a ratio with many, many other organic compounds. And primarily when we measure our methylxanthine, that's what we call organic chemistry. And the xanthines have been around and are very beneficial for the human body. Some of you are familiar with zeaxanthine right now. That's being taught to medical people how good it is for your eyesight and how wholesome the xanthines are for the macular part of the eye. So over on organic chemistry, xanthines have been around for a long time, and they're very familiar to organic chemists. And in our product is what we call methylxanthine, and three of the common ingredients of the 500, caffeine, theobromine, and theophylline. Now, theophylline is pretty neat in that pharmaceutically, we've known that people, when they get theophylline and theobromine in the system, they breathe easier. It's like their bronchospasms stop, like their bronchioles are relaxed. They don't have to have a puffer nearly as often. People that are asthmatic, like that. And people with COPD or people with difficulty in breathing. These people, for years, we've known that theobromine, which is basically from like in chocolate, and theophylline, and these particular methylxanthines are neat. So in addition to these hundreds of organic compounds, the ones that are most effective and most beneficial are unique, and they're in our products. And in the uniqueness of the product, we found that these phytochemicals offer a plethora of good, wholesome, organic chemistry. The polyphenols, you've heard green tea before, polyphenol, like in green tea. Well, a polyphenol, it's very safe to take, and what this does is that in our products, the nutritional qualities, the methylxanthines that we are using, it allows these botanicals, these herbs, to do their thing without the aggravation of caffeineism, without the anxiety and the sleeplessness and things like that. So when people read the instructions and they say, well, green tea, guarana, and cola nut, whatever, then yes, trimethylxanthine is chemically similar to caffeine, but the naturals are always organically, molecularly bound, and because of the binding, they're much, much, much different. It eliminates the ill effects of caffeine, and yet at the same time, the binding is adaptogenic. It means that where things are hyper, it smooths it out, and where things are hypo, it brings it up. It's adaptogenic. It's a modulating effect. So you get all the good without the nervousness, without the jitters. And by good, I mean in our product, the VISI Wellness, the VISI Weight Loss, the VISI Energy, any one of those three are going to quicken the mind, meaning better focus, increase your mental alertness and acuity, and provide that vitality, that tonic effect. And when you get that tonic effect, now you're whooping fatigue right down the line. Now, what's the difference in the VISI Energy of the weight loss and the VISI Energy of the energy pack? Well, they're both going to be dynamic in vitality, but in the energy pack, we were able to put Schisandra, which is liver enhancing, and rhodiola, which is adrenal enhancing. So there we're taking good, wholesome adrenal support. And there's no doubt that the naturals are always much more effective than synthetic caffeine. But they're in our weight loss product because we measure them for thermogenesis. That means fat-burning qualities. And anytime we can upgrade your thermogenic fat-burning effect without making your pulse erratic, without causing your heart to skip a beat, without making you lose a wink of sleep, then people are going to welcome the fact that our product is helping them, keeping them more focused, helping them to think straighter, giving them more energy, and in the long run, overcoming the battle of the bulge. So what's neat about it is that, as Gloria has so graciously typed up here for us, what these naturals, not synthetic now, not anhydrous caffeine, you'll never get this from caffeine, but because we're dealing with methylxanthine, which may have some caffeine, some theobromine, some theophylline, when you got 500 different organic chemistries all bound together, the first thing that happens in the weight loss factory is that cyclic AMP, the adenosine monophosphate, the stuff that causes phosphorus, energy, dynamic ATP energy. When cyclic AMP goes up, the body is able to get rid of the white adipose fluffy tissue, but not at the expense of losing muscle. So the body starts building brown adipose tissue, which is lean and solid and energetic and athletic. And the mechanism of action is cyclic AMP. It's very encouraging. When people take biochemistry 101 and they get into the Krebs citrus cycle, the ability of the mitochondria to spin off and to give you adenosine triphosphate energy. Everybody who takes biochemistry always says, "Ooh, I wish I had me a pill that was a ATP enhancer." Well, you have anything that builds cyclic AMP, that's the adenosine monophosphate, and you only need 3 of them, adenotriphosphate, you start building cyclic AMP, you got yourself a good, wholesome energizer. And because it improves the ability of the body to keep the pH and the osmosis, the cell structure, you're going to keep calcium where it belongs, over there in the stronger muscles and stronger bones. You don't want calcium running in the blood, just freely blocking up arteries and causing the blood chemistry to get out of whack. And what happens when cyclic AMP goes up and calcium is in the bones and strong, your basal metabolic rate, just even when you're sitting, after you're done a day's work and you're resting, you're still up 5 to 20%. That means you're burning fat even while you're resting, and not keeping you awake, not causing your pulse to go upside down. And so now we come along, we got all these basal metabolic things working. The body has cyclic AMP issuing itself. The infrastructure of the body now says, okay, let's go over here and find what is stuck. The fat belly, the buttocks, the thighs, the hips. Let us lipolytically, let us cleave it, let us cut it up, let us break it down. And lipolysis is the literal breakdown of fat that doesn't belong. And what that does is you can take a triglyceride and get rid of it. You can take a very low density protein like bad cholesterol and chop it up and get rid of it. You can take a white adipose tissue, the things that cause the omentum, the belly fat, to protrude. And as you go along, now the visceral fat, the fat that is around the organs to protect it, those become your protector, and those belly fats and excess fats noticeably start shrinking. Everybody who uses methylxanthine for their energy will always eventually find that they're down a dress size or a pant size or a clothes size. So what happens is the essence of the energy pack and the VSI weight loss is that we are coming into the human body, which is fearfully and wonderfully made, naturally working its metabolism, and these are going to improve it, augment the thermogenic response to the meal that you're already eating. As soon as you eat a meal, the body says, let's start burning. As soon as you start walking, the body says, let me help you. And we're finding that when people do have thermogenesis and it's running well, it does it a whole lot better when you got it going and going and going and going. So improving the overall cellular metabolism, let us go, let us go, let us go. And the neat thing about it is that we're using organic stuff, no synthetic. And hats off to Kent and Ryan, because when they put our products together, a lot of thoughts, a lot of thinking, a lot of good common sense. And by far, I've never drunk a Monster, and I'm not going to intend to do it because I know what synthetic is. But I'm all for natural. That's the reason we're out there trying to get people healthy. So, Ms. Gloria, that's pretty much the rest of the story.
Well, this is good information, Dr. Rouse, and I appreciate you coming on here and sharing this. And I guess we could probably safely say that drinks like the Monster drinks don't do much good for helping to increase cyclic AMP in the body. I guess if it does, it's not in a healthy way. But
not at all. It will not cycle it at all. And you think about the 5-hour energy drinks that are out there in the curb stores. Every one of those are anhydrous caffeine. They went at it cheaply made, and all the most expensive vitamin that you'll ever take is one that ain't worth a hoot. and this is my personal opinion, that if it has synthetic markers in it, if they cheat you on that, who knows what else they've got in there that's sub-inferior also.
Absolutely. Well, this has been great again, as I said, great information.